What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again. And this time we got Nick from Eternal Idol. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex, and thanks to everybody, okay?
Yeah, it's so good to have you here. The new album, Renaissance, is absolutely awesome. How was the overall making of this album? Like, how did Renaissance sort of come to be?
Usually I used to compose all the instrumental part, and this take quite a long time, okay, because we work, each songs could take 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it depends from the artistic moment, okay. When I have the song right in the computer, so I can work on the song with Fabio, and we start to put the lyrics idea on the vocal lines, okay, before the lyrics. And so we have a pre-production, normally in a home studio. And when we have all the pre-productions done, we can start to record guitars, drum, and bass, okay. And we already have the orchestral arrangements, but when we have the pre-production voice pre-productions done, we can fix the orchestral arrangements better, okay? Mm-hmm. And after this, we can go in the studio record and to record the album. But this all this process can take 1 year, more or less, okay?
Yeah, it does take a very, very long time to make an album sometimes. Is what we're hearing on this album how these songs were originally made, or did these songs change a lot over a span of time in the making of this album?
Well, in the past, when if you have the idea not so clear, many times the song changed during the process, okay? But now, this is the third album I made with Fabio, 2 with Eternal Idol and 1 with Holoways. And with Fabio is very, very easy to work, okay? Because when you have an idea, he can sing perfectly on the song. The problem is you have to have the right idea about the general sound of the album. And after this, for us, it's very easy to be in the sound, okay, in the sound of the band. The problem is write good songs, okay? But normally when you have the good idea, you can recognize immediately and say, yeah, okay, this is right, okay? We need just a great vocals line over, and it's perfect. Mm-hmm. For example, the title track, Into the Darkness, is the first songs we wrote. And we know exactly from the first time it will be the opening track of the album. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting on how, like, when the song is finished, like, you know exactly where in the album it's going to be.
Yeah. We for example, for the song Renaissance, of course, it's like a suite. So the main idea was to have this as the song will close the album, you know. For example, the Way from Heaven, is similar to a ballad. It's a perfect moment in the middle of the track list, you know. Or sometimes we used to start with the heavy songs with many bands, but continue with another heavy song immediately. So the first and the second song normally in our album are the first heavy, the heaviest moment, okay? On the third, we have a dark songs. It's most different from the typical heavy metal songs, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, like,
okay.
I feel like the music is fairly experimental because I see many different elements incorporated in Eternal Idol. Do you sometimes have, like, a preconceived idea of how you want want it to sound like? Or is there kind of like a lot of improvising and experimentation?
No, it's very... there's nothing built, because I think this is from the different background we have as musicians. For example, I'm influenced from the 80s or 70s band. So, for example, I play symphonic heavy metal normally, but my influences are from hard rock from United States, like Dokken, George Lynch, you know. So maybe you can hear, for example, talking about the guitar, you can hear I'm not the typical heavy metal guitarist, but I'm more hard rock oriented. So you can feel some elements, for example, in the solos or in some acoustic part. Fabio, of course, is more oriented from Rhapsody style or Queensryche. So the drummer Enrico, for example, or the bass players are more hard rock too. So combine this element in a composition can give you a particular sound, maybe. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny too. It's so interesting to see on how so many metal musicians actually don't have a metal background. Like, not a lot. There, I have, in fact, more times than not, I don't know many metal musicians where they say that Slayer got them into music, or it's like, do you have a theoretical background behind your playing as well? Because I was very impressed behind the technical excellence of it.
Yeah, but not so much. For example, I study something about classical music, but not so in the classical style. For example, classical music, but on the electric guitar, you know. So, for example, like Yngwie Malmsteen could be classical, but not a classical guitar player. So there are classical elements, but I prefer to work on the sound, you know. I like the guitarists like John Sykes, George Lynch, who or Eddie Van Halen, of course, who have their particular sound. And you can recognize this sound, for example, inside also a symphonic composition, a symphonic metal composition, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. And Tarja has a background in classical music, and you see that so much. Evanescence, Amy Lee has a background in classical music. So it's really interesting to see on how an older form of music can translate into something very modern.
Yeah. It's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah. In order for a listener to maybe, do you recommend for this new album that a listener starts off with Into the Darkness and ends with Renaissance? Does this album have a story that people should follow, or could a listener approach this album from any different angle?
You can approach from different angle, but it's amazing. When we start to compose the album, we don't have idea about the world situation created by the COVID. But the album is it's amazing. Like Renaissance, in my opinion, could be a very sign of hope. You know, we can have maybe next year to Renaissance from this amazing moment COVID created. And after we already recorded the album, my opinion was to have the first song not Into the Darkness, but Out of the Darkness. Okay. So I think this album, for a particular reason, is very is interesting how it could be in this particular moment we are living in the world today. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny too, because the album now has a lot more context after you mentioned that. Because Into the Darkness makes me feel like I'm going into something. If you called it Out of the Darkness, I don't know how much different it would make me feel, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. And one of my personal favorite songs on the album was actually Dark Eclipse, one of the first singles you released. And do you feel that maybe the two singles that you released so far, Into the Darkness and Dark Eclipse, is that very representative of what the whole album is going to sound like?
It represents two aspects of the band, two different characteristics of the band. But I think Into the Darkness represent the style of the band better than Dark Eclipse. We choose that Dark Eclipse because it's just the second single, and on 6th of November we will release another single, another video clip. And these new songs will be between Dark Eclipse and Into the Darkness. Okay, so normally in our style, I can recognize three style. You know, like heavy, dark, and more melodic style, you know. And I think the first two singles are the better way to represent the sound of the band and of the album.
Yeah, and you're such a prolific artist as well, being that you've played with so many bands such as Cybercross and Hollow Haze. Like, is there a different mind frame depending on the projects that you're involved with, or is there a usual method that applies to everything?
I was involved in other projects in the past. For example, Cybercross, it was a project. Hollow Haze was my main band until last year's, and Hollow Haze are we released 7 albums, but we start from a more heavy metal style, and we arrived to a kind of symphonic heavy metal. But sometimes you try to make a lot of. I put all my energy inside Hollow Haze, but when I started Eternal Idol, I saw it was more easy to reach the sound I needed, you know. And so the other project at the moment are in standby because I want really I'm focused on Eternal Idol. Then I have other bands in the past, but I was really young, you know. So, for example, White Skull in the beginning, it was amazing because I joined the band, and in 6 months we released an album for Nuclear Blast at the time, and we got on tour in Europe with Grave Digger. So it was a funny moment when I was very young. After this moment, I start to get my own band and build my sound, you know. And this is what in my opinion, I realized I have the perfect sound with this album. You know, it's amazing. Yeah. After many albums.
Well, you have to go through a lot of different styles, and you have to find your own sound. You have to go through so much just to get to it.
Yeah, you know, many times I think for example, looking to other bands from the 80s, I think many times they start with a production with a producer who can really understand the sound of the band and translate this sound on the album. But unfortunately, in the last few years, we have not so many occasions to play live. Many bands need to play live and then go in the studio. But we used to make another process, make the album and then go on live, you know. And this many times is difficult because when you can reach on live on the road is very important. So after many album and not so many live, I realize the sound I have in my mind, you know.
Yeah, but you know, as a human, we always learn and we always develop. So do you think that maybe you'll find new sounds in the future?
I don't know, because I'm very satisfied with this album, and I would like to continue with this style, especially for the two vocals. You know, I think Fabio and Claudia are very. After many albums, I realize that the vocal are the point. You know, so you have to are very careful when you are composing. You have to know which singers you have in the band and compose the songs for the singers, you know, not just for Shred or for other.
Yeah, do you have to adjust the sound depending on who is singing in the band, actually? Like, do you have to even change the setting in the amp or hit a different pedal or something like that to make the guitar sound fit the vocalist?
No, basically the guitar sound remains the same. What normally for in the studio or during the composition we can develop is the arrangements, okay, the orchestral arrangement. For me, guitar, bass, distortion guitar, okay, and bass and drum basically are standard, you know, our sound. Then you have to change the elements with the arrangements.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've heard so many times that guitar players could sometimes tune depending on who is singing. Like actually mentioning a fellow Italian band, Lacuna Coil, like, you know, Christina and Andrea, their voices are so different from each other. I always wondered like if they had to maybe adjust the music or even adjust the tuning to make it fit both vocalists.
You know, Fabio can sing everything. He's amazing. You know, you can. We normally don't speak about notes with Fabio.
Oh, really?
We speak just about the song, and we can try to. Many times I compose in D minor, because or C sharp, because I use a tune like Zakk Wylde in Ozzy Osbourne. You know, it's a drop tune. Okay, in the guitar.
Yeah.
But Fabio, I can start the riff in C or in E and nothing changed. He can sing, so it's okay.
Okay, definitely. And do you think that being that this is the second Eternal Idol sound, like, I mean, does this have any relationship to the Unrevealed Secret, the previous album, or being that you think that you found your sound with Renaissance, that this almost has nothing to do with the previous album?
I think that the sound is similar, but on this album we made the bombastic elements or orchestral elements more evident. You know, this is the only, because for with Georgia, the previous famous singer, she was more hard rock oriented. You know. But the idea was to have a singer more operistic, more melodic. So we increased the bombastic orchestral elements and they also interlude parts, like, for example, in Into the Darkness, you know, Without Fear, in Renaissance. There are many moments, acoustic moments, piano moments, you know, and that bring you from a lower dynamic to heavy dynamic, you know. And so this is the difference between the first album. More arrangements, because we have a more operistic female voice.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that Renaissance has opened more doors for Eternal Idol in the future as well, right?
I hope so. I hope. I saw the first reviews. It was amazing how they say, the new singers, we improved the sound, and that was what really we need. Female singers will combine because Fabio can sing aggressive, melodic, also tenore, you know, and Claudia can sing also melodic and soprano. So I think it's very, very a good combination.
Yeah, because sometimes if you have a voice that just does one thing, you can't really experiment or push yourself any further. So it's great to have not one, but even two versatile vocalists.
Of course, it's perfect. Yeah. For example, I don't like for example, many bands have the female singer and then the male singer who normally sing a scream or growl part, you know. So you have not so many variations, because normally the male singer is more. You can expect for the male singer just heavy parts, you know. But with Fabio, you can expect an heavy parts and also a melodic part, so it's, in my opinion, more various.
Yeah, which is awesome. It's awesome, and that'll definitely shock a lot of listeners and surprise many people, which is how I looked at this album. It actually was kind of like a surprise to me, because, you know, you sometimes people kind of judge an album by one song and they assume that, you know, it's this style or that style, but it just seems like that you kind of exceed people's expectations with this album.
Yeah, thanks.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is where, guys, in Italy are you currently located?
We are based in old north of Italy, so we are not so near, okay? And between us, there are many kilometers. Okay. For example, I am in the Venice area. Fabio is near Pisa. You know Pisa? Where is?
Yeah.
There's the tower. Yeah. So the bass player near Torino. So we are in the north area of Italy. So, for example, when we have to make a rehearsal, is very it's very funny for us because we spent one weekend together, to rehearsal, to eat together, it's very funny.
Is there kind of though an active metal scene, because so many great bands have come out of Italy from Rhapsody? I mean, I feel like Rhapsody is one of the bands that really popularized symphonic metal, but also the home of Lacuna Coil and Flesh God Apocalypse and Distraged. Like, is there a current scene that maybe Eternal Idol is associated with, or is the goal right now to kind of go outside Italy a little bit more to get your name out there?
I understand 80% of the question. I don't understand the very point of the question, sorry.
Oh, is there kind of just, basically, is there just an active metal scene in Italy that you guys are affiliated with?
Yeah, there is an active metal scene, but there are many bands, but different, For example, Flesh God Apocalypse is very totally different from Rhapsody or Distrage, so I hope we can find our space, our range where we can, for example, go on tour or something like this.
Yeah. I think Flesh God Apocalypse has some symphonic elements. I think that would be a great tour with you guys, an Italian tour.
Yeah. They are very symphonic, and I have never seen on stage, but I saw some on some live on YouTube, and they are amazing.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote for Eternal Idol with the release of Renaissance? Like, can we get some live stream performances or anything else?
Yeah, of course. We are organizing a live stream. I really hope this is the last live streaming. I hope, because of this situation. We have a release party scheduled, but probably it will be delayed because it is in Milano area, and now it's very impossible to play. So we are preparing a live streaming show, and we will record on 1st of November, so very soon. And after this, Frontiers Record, we give us a release scheduled playing for the release, but I don't know actually at the moment when it will be. Maybe in first month of 2021. We have another video clip and another lyrics video within the end of the year, and then we have a surprise for beginning of 2021. But I can say at the moment, okay. It will be another great thing.
Fair enough. But thank you so much, Nick. Everybody, we are here with Nick of Eternal Idol. Be sure to pick up Renaissance coming out this November via Frontiers. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.